Shall we start? I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right. So, in the previous class, we stopped with semantic networks, semantic nets. Okay, we were, discussing about knowledge representation using some visual representational schemas. Okay, so I told there were two such techniques. One is what is called the semantic nets, and second one is what is called the frames. Okay, so semantic nets we had discussed in the last class. So today we are going to start with frames. Okay, so this is similar to semantic nets. This is yet another knowledge representation technique. So you can also call it as an extension of your semantic networks. Okay, so now like when does frames come into picture? So when the task gets more complex, okay, so we require a little more structured representation. Okay, so a frame system can handle, it is actually a little more structured representation. Okay, so you can call frame as a collection of what is called your attributes or slots. Okay, in frames you have what is called slots. Okay, so it is always used to represent concepts or entities that have some associated values in the real world. Okay, so each frame describes one object. Okay, so each frame will be having a name and slots. Okay, so I'll give you an example, a simple example. Okay, so we can have a frame called cricketers. Okay, for example, you can have a frame called cricketers. Okay, so you can, this will be a class. Okay, so when you have a frame called cricketers, for example, Tendulkar. Okay, so this can be an instance of, let's say, batsman. He has taken certain number of, say, runs. Okay, he belongs to Team India. Okay, so this is also a frame. Okay, so you can have a frame for, say, Tendulkar or Shane Warne, or they're all instances, you can say. Okay, so they're all instances. Okay, so a different, another example for a frame. So here, dog is a frame. Okay, so the attributes are mentioned here. You can see here the legs. Okay, and also the value for the attribute is also mentioned here, 4. Okay, so similarly, the other attributes and variables are mentioned here. Okay, so here you can see collie. Okay, so collie is actually a type of dog, an instance of dog. Okay, so that's what frame is all about. An example for a frame. Okay, so here you can see mammal is a subclass of animal. Okay, elephant is a subclass of mammal. Okay, you can say inheritance. Okay, or Nelly or Clyde, whatever, it's an instance of an elephant. Okay, so how the knowledge is being represented as a frame. Okay, so yeah, you can see here. So the given concept, whatever I just mentioned here, when you're using, when it's represented using logical statements, it will be like, see, for all mammals, it has a part, which is a head. Okay, or for all elephants, it means it is a mammal. Okay, then elephant of Clyde. Okay, so elephant instance is created as a Clyde. You can see here Clyde, Nelly, they're all instances. Okay, so elephant instance is created as a Clyde or Nelly or whatever. Okay, so the inference is Clyde is also a mammal, so therefore the inference is it's also a mammal. Okay, and it also has a part which is a head. That is what head of has part of Clyde comma head. Okay, so that's what. So the complete expression is being represented as a frame. Okay, so the values is being assigned to all the attributes. Okay, fine. So now these are all the relationships. You can represent subclasses and instant relationships. Is a relationship can be represented here. Okay, then you can see here. Yeah, mammal. Mammal is typically furry, but this is not so for an elephant. You can see elephant. It is no. It is written as no, whereas for a general mammal, it is told as yes. Okay, that means it can be overridden. Okay, it can be overridden. Okay, so frames actually partitions the knowledge into what is called slots. Okay, so when you say slot can describe a declarative knowledge or a procedural knowledge. Procedural knowledge means, for example, say is married. Okay, whatever function you declare. Okay, so hierarchy of frames is also possible, and that is what is called your inheritance. Okay, so now coming to the capabilities of frames. Okay, so the major thing is modularity. Modularity is permitted. Modularity of information, that is what is called reusing. Okay, reusing. So the semantic networks and your frames both make use of your object-oriented programming concepts and represents the knowledge. Okay, so maybe as far as examination is concerned, maybe you can expect a question. Draw the frame for a particular scenario. Okay, drawing the frame for a scenario. Let's say for a restaurant, where you can represent all the nouns can be the frames. Okay, and you can develop your own frame. Okay, so now coming to the next one. Next one is what is called your inference. Okay, inference. Okay, so inference is basically a mechanism by which reasoning takes place. Okay, so this reasoning and inference. Reasoning and inference is something which goes hand in hand. Okay, and it's very much essential to have a appropriate inferring mechanism in order to carry out reasoning. Okay, so when you say inferencing, there are three types of inferencing. One is what is called deduction. Second one is what is called induction. Third one is what is called abduction. Okay, so let's first start with the deduction. Okay, so first is deduction. So this you say it is concrete in nature. I hope all of you are listening. Okay, so this is concrete in nature. Okay, so you have certain terminologies coming up. You have what is called axioms, facts, which is also called premises, and conclusion. Okay, so let's start with fact. Okay, let's start with a fact. So just a fact. For example, Ria is a kid. Okay, so the axiom is, okay, so all kids are naughty. Okay, so that is should be there for all A implies B. All kids are naughty. You can represent it as, how do you represent it? Kid of X implies naughty of X. Okay, so using your facts and axioms, if you can derive your conclusion, then that is what is called deduction. Okay, so what is the conclusion out here? The conclusion is Ria is naughty. Okay, so it's a concrete conclusion. That's what you call it as a deduction. Okay, so you're proving it's true. It's not any assumption. Okay, so that's what is basically your deduction. Deriving a conclusion from given axioms and facts. Okay, or drawing a conclusion based on available knowledge and observation. So that is what your deduction is all about. So next is induction. Induction is probable in nature. Probable. Okay, so deriving general rule or axiom from background knowledge and observation. Okay, so induction, I just said it's probable in nature. Okay, for example, you have two sentences. Ria is a kid. Ria is naughty. Okay, axiom which you can probably derive from it is kids are naughty. Okay, probable means it may be true, it may not be true. Okay, so we say general axiom. Okay, kids are naughty. It's an axiom. A implies B. Okay, kid of X implies naughty of X. Okay, so that's what our induction is all about. So the main difference between deduction and induction is concrete in nature, whereas induction is probable in nature. In deduction, you derive conclusion, whereas in induction, you derive axioms. Are you all listening?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, right. So next, let's move on to what is called abduction. The third type of inference is called abduction. Okay. Okay. So of premise, which is also called fact, derived from a known axiom and some observation, is what is called abduction. Okay. So abduction may be true, it may not be true. For example, all kids are naughty. Ria is naughty. So the inference is Ria is a kid. This is a fact actually. We can infer that Ria must be a kid. Okay. So now the question comes, we have learned about different types of inferencing, abduction, induction, and deduction. So then now the question is, uh, which is to be used at what point of time? Okay. So this abduction, it's typically used for a diagnostic, you can say for expert systems. And deduction is concerned with, you can say first order logic to get the inferring. Okay, so that's a difference between all these things. Okay, so coming to another example, if you have a sentence, let's say all, okay, let me take this. Okay, all mangoes are fruits. All mangoes are fruits. So I'll put it as all mangoes are fruits. Mangoes implies fruits. This is my first sentence. My second sentence is all fruits have seeds. Fruits implies seeds. So what will be the conclusion here? The conclusion, I mean, A implies B can be changed as not of A or B. The same way when you do it for the second sentence, you can conclude that all mangoes have seeds. Okay, so mangoes implies seeds. Okay, so this is concrete for sure, induction. Okay, so in induction, you derive a axiom. Okay, so that's probable. For example, mango is a fruit. The box is full of fruits. Okay, and so the conclusion can be box is full of mangoes. It may be true, it may not be true. Okay, so the second sentence, the box is full of fruits. It can be any fruit, need not be mango, it can be orange, it can be banana, etc. So we cannot concretely conclude that the box is full of mangoes. Okay, so that's what I wanted to tell you, the difference between the three types of inferring. Okay, so now coming to the next topic, nothing but how to represent uncertain knowledge. Okay, uncertain knowledge and reasoning. Okay, so if you have probabilities associated with your knowledge, okay, then it is what is called your uncertain knowledge. Okay, so how to represent your uncertain knowledge? So you have techniques like your Bayesian probabilities, belief networks, and various other techniques for representing uncertain knowledge. Okay. Okay, so here you can see here inference. In case of incomplete or default reasoning methods, conclusion drawn might not be completely accurate. For example, if primary infection is bacteria, bacteriacea, and site of infection is sterile, and entry point is gastrointestinal tract, then organism is bacteroid, with a probability of 0.7%. So whatever you say here, it's not 100% true. Okay, so you associate with some probability with each and every rule. Okay, so then the organism is bacteria, 0.7. That is 70% confidence that the given organism is bacteria. Okay, so some sort of confidence level or probability is attached in case of uncertain knowledge. Okay, so yeah, you can see here in the case of an example is being given. In the case of medical diagnosis, what does the rule say? The rule say it is toothache is equal to cavity. Okay, so actually this is not complete because not all patients will be having toothache due to cavity. It can be due to, let's say, some gum problem, or it could be due to cavity, or it could be due to some abscess. Okay, so to make this rule complete, we will have to list out all possible causes of toothache. Okay, which many a times may not be possible. Okay, which may not be possible. Okay, then there could be reasons other than these three cases for as a reason for a toothache. Okay, so it's not feasible to list out all the rules. One could be the laziness. It requires a lot of effort to list the complete set of antecedents and consequence to make the rules complete. Theoretical ignorance. Medical science does not have complete theory for the domain. Practical ignorance. So all these are the reasons why we cannot be having a complete listing of all possible cases of your toothache. Okay, so in such situations, when you have uncertainty around you, so that can be dealt with what is called your probability theory, the truth maintenance theory, and techniques like fuzzy logic. Okay, right. So coming to probability. Many of you would have learned all these probability. You can see here the degree of likeliness that an event will occur. Okay, so probability of occurrence of an event will be in the range between 0 and 1. Okay, so the value will always be between 0 and 1. Okay, so conditional probability or it's also called posterior probability is the probability of event A given that B has occurred. So that's what you represent it as, P of A by B. So probability of A given B. That means probability of event A given that B has already occurred. Okay, so that is being represented as P of B by B given A multiplied by P of A divided by P of B. Okay, so probability of A given B. That's what it means. That's how it is being represented. Okay, so for example, P of it will rain tomorrow. Then given it is raining today. This is A, this is B. Represents the conditional probability of raining tomorrow as it is raining today. Okay, then probability of A given B plus probability of not of A given B equal to 1. Okay, then we have something called joint probability. It will be coming up. Okay, so joint probability. Joint probability means the probability of two independent events happening simultaneously. Two independent events happening simultaneously. Okay. Yeah. For example, the probability of getting a 2 on one dice and 6 on another dice. It's equal to 1 by 36. How is it 1 by 36? Probability of getting 2 on one dice and probability of getting 6 on another dice, it's combinedly equal to joint probability equal to 1 by 36. So that means probability of getting 2 on one dice is 1 by 6. Okay, multiplied by probability of getting 6 on another dice is 1 by 6. So 1 by 6 into 1 by 6, you get it as 1 by 36. Okay, so it's basically probability of A into probability of B. Okay, then the most important theorem associated with uncertain knowledge and reasoning, nothing but your Bayes theorem. Okay, so Bayes theorem based on the principle that every pair of feature is being classified as independent of each other. Okay, it calculates the probability P of A given B, where can others mute your microphone, please? Somebody's microphone is on. It's creating some irritation. P of A given B. Make a note of it. Bayes theorem. Probability of B given A multiplied by probability of A divided by P of B. Who's that, please? Okay. Right. So P of A is called the prior probability of the class. P of B is called the prior probability of the predictor. B given A is the likelihood. I'll give you an example. Okay, so let's consider this. Okay, so you can see here 14 observations are given. 14 observations are given. And depending upon whether the three types of weather is being mentioned, sunny, rainy, and overcast. Whether the children can play. Play is Y and not play is N. Okay, so to play or not to play. Okay, so the first table is weather and play. Okay, so we have to find out the probability that the children will play given that the weather is sunny. This is what we need to find out. Probability that the children will play given that the weather is sunny. Okay, so depending upon the weather, that is whether it is sunny, rainy, or overcast, the children will either play or not play. Okay, so that's what it's being represented by the conditional probability. P of S given sunny is equal to P of sunny given S multiplied by probability of S divided by probability of sunny. So, okay, so first what you do is you construct a frequency table. What is frequency table? The count of occurrence of each. So you can count how many occurrences are there for each. What is the weather? Overcast, rainy, and sunny, which has two categories, yes or no. So see, overcast and yes, there are 0 occurrence. Overcast and no, 4 occurrence. So construct for yes and no, what is the frequency table? Frequency for each value that you have. You construct. This is what is called your frequency table. Frequency table. Okay. So next is you construct what is called a likelihood table. So this is frequency of occurrence. Each value, how many times it occurs for Y, how many times it occurs for no, yes or no. Okay. So that is the second step. You construct a frequency table. The next step is you construct your likelihood table. Okay. So for example, overcast. Overcast, you can see here. The first one is overcast. Total is 4. 0 and 4. So 0 plus 4. So 4 divided by the total number of observations. You have 14 observations. So 4 divided by 14. Okay. Similarly, rainy and sunny. Okay. So rainy and sunny. 3 plus 2, 5. 5 divided by 14. Same way, 5 divided by 14. Then for yes, for the various combinations, 5 divided by 14 and 9 divided 4 plus 2 plus 3, 9 divided by 14. Okay, so that's how you construct your likelihood. Then likelihood table. Then you substitute the appropriate values and get the value as 0.59. So that will give the probability that children will play given that the weather is sunny. Okay, so that's a simple example of representing uncertain knowledge and reasoning. So next, coming to another representational aspect, which is nothing but what is called your, this is what is called your directed acyclic graph, DAG, and or it is also called belief network. Belief network. Okay, so directed acyclic graph. So here you can see the same example: windy, cloudy, wet grass, leaf. A similar example, not the same example, a similar example. Okay, so these are all random variables. Your windy, your cloudy, wet grass, leaf. These are all random variables. Okay, so some probabilities are associated with each variable, each random variable. So you can see here, the probability is 0.002. So probability is 0.002. So here for windy, the probability is 0.001. So this is the probability associated with this. Rains, then probability associated with leaf, probability associated with wet grass. Okay, so this particular table is given to us. Okay, the truth table and the associated probabilities. The truth table and the associated probabilities are given to us. Okay, so for rains, the parent is windy and cloud. Okay, so that's what. For wet grass, the parent, it has got only a single parent. The parent is rain. For leaf, it's got a single parent, rains. Whereas rains has got two parents, windy and cloudy. Okay, so if there is a rain, then you will have wet grass. Okay, so for the wet grass, parent is rain. Okay, for rain class, you can have true or false. Okay, so the probability is given. If there is rain, then the probability of wet grass is 0.95. You can see here, I've made a tick mark here. If there is rains, the probability of wet grass is 0.95. If rain was not there, then the probability of wet grass is 0.05. Okay, so that's what. So you represent the table based on the parent of that particular class. Okay, so here you can see rain is having two parents. So the truth table will have 2 to the power k values. So here k is the number of parents. So in case you have two parents, it will have 2 to the power 2, that is 4 values. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's having two parents, so 4 values. Whereas out here, it's having only single parent. So 2 to the power 1, that is 2 values, that is true or false. True or false. Somewhere I think they give you this equation to 2 to the power k. Okay, right. So this is the same explanation, whatever I just told in this particular slide, the structure, and identifying the nodes, the structure, what are the parent structure in the sense, what are the parent classes, what are the parent classes. Then the third is quantifying the relationship between the nodes based on the conditional probability. Then you have something called Markov property. Markov property. So here, what Markov property means is, if you see, there is no direct connection between this cloudy Okay, so there is no direct connection between this cloudy and taking a leave. So there is no direct connection between this cloudy and taking a leave. But then it is connected via what is called your rains. Okay, so belief networks will have Markov property, which is also called independence maps. Okay, that is what is called your Markov property. Markov property. Okay, no direct connection between being cloudy and taking a leave. But then there is one via rains. Okay, so belief networks, the similar ones exhibit what is called Markov property, then they're also called independent maps. Okay, so next is regarding inference in belief networks. Inference in belief networks. So you have two types of inferencing, two types. Okay, so the Bayesian networks provide various types of representations of probability distributions over their variables. Okay, so one is called diagnostic reasoning, and second one is what is called predictive reasoning. Okay, so diagnostic reasoning means when it rains, one can update his belief about the grass being wet, or if leave is taken from work. So in this case, reasoning occurs in the opposite direction of the network arc. In the sense, when it rains, you can always update your belief about grass being wet or taking leave from work. Okay, so grass is wet because probably you have rain. Okay, or you took leave because of rains. Okay, then we have what is called the predictive reasoning. Okay, so that is reasoning from new information about the causes to new belief about effects. For example, if the grass is already wet, okay, then the user knows that it has rained and it might have been cloudy or windy. Okay, so that's what is called predictive reasoning. Okay, so using your directed acyclic graph, DAG, what I just showed you, okay, or your belief network, you can do your diagnostic reasoning or your predictive reasoning. Okay. Okay. So next, coming to what is called your Bayesian probability and belief network, an extension of it. Okay. So your Bayesian network, you can say it's a probabilistic graphical model which represents a set of variables. Variables in the sense the random variables. There we saw cloudy, windy, and all those things. The random variables and their associated probabilities and their conditional dependence using what is called a DAG, directed acyclic graph. Okay, so Bayesian networks is represented as as a DAG, directed acyclic graph. Okay, it's also called Bayes network, belief network, decision network, Bayesian model. Okay, right. So next. Okay, so what are these Bayesian networks being used for? Okay, so they are basically built from probability distribution. Okay, and they are used for prediction, anomaly detection, diagnostics, automated insight, reasoning, decision making under uncertainty, and for a number of things. Okay, so okay, so these certain aspects are being given here. The same directed acyclic graph made up of nodes. Nodes correspond to the random variables. It could be concrete or sorry, it could be continuous or discrete. Okay, so A, B, C, D are all random variables. They are connected by directed arrow, which means A is the parent node of B. A is the parent node of B. Node C is independent of node A. Okay, Markov property. But then it's not connected via any other. Okay, so next. Yeah, conditional probability already done. Okay, yeah, joint probability distribution. This is something to be noted. Okay, P of x1, when you have a structure like this, how do we represent? We have an example for it. We'll take it up. Okay, P of x1 given x2 comma x3 into P of x2 comma x3. So in general, you write it this way. I'll give you an example. Wait. Okay. So you have a scenario which is being given here. Okay, so you need to read the explanation and you have to construct what is called your DAG. Okay, so yeah. So Harry has installed a new burglar alarm at his house to detect burglary. So the alarm reliably responds at detecting a burglary, but also responds to minor earthquakes. Harry has got two neighbors, David and Sophia, who has taken the responsibility to inform Harry at work when they hear the alarm. Okay, David always calls Harry when he hears the alarm, but sometimes he gets confused with the phone ringing and calls that at that time too. On the other hand, Sophia likes listening to music, that especially to high music. So sometimes she misses to hear the alarm. So here we would like to compute the probability of burglar alarm. Okay, that's what we would like to compute. Okay, so I'll just show you. So this, see the alarm, this particular alarm has to ring when burglary happens or when earthquake occurs. Okay, so yeah, you have to calculate the probability that the alarm has sounded, but then there is neither a burglary nor an earthquake has occurred, and Sophia and David both is called Harry. This is what we are supposed to calculate. And the point to be noted out here is a Boolean variable with k Boolean parents can have 2 to the power k probabilities. So this is what I just said. And hence, if there are two parents k will be equal to 2. So you will have 2 to the power 4. You will have 4 probability values. Okay, this I had already illustrated in the previous example. Okay. Okay, so you can say here, David calls. David calls is having only one parent. Okay, that is alarm. Okay, so 2 to the power k, 2 to the power 1, it's having only 2 values in the truth table. Same way, Sophia calls also has only one parent alarm. So it's got 2 to the power 1, 2 values. Whereas alarm is having 2 parents. It can either be burglary or earthquake. So 2 to the power 2, which means the probabilistic, the table, truth table can have 4 values. Okay. So coming here, so we can, yeah. So B stands for burglary, E for earthquake, A for alarm, D for David calls, S for Sophia. Okay, so we can write the events of the problem statements in the form of probability. Okay, so when everything is true, that is P of David calls Sophia, A comma B comma E. It can be rewritten as, so you can see here, P of D given S comma A comma B comma E into probability of S comma A comma B comma E. Okay, D is David calls. Okay, that will happen if S comma A comma B is true. Okay, so that is what is written here. Okay, this is actually of the form into P of B. Okay, so you can see here, actually it is written in this form, the joint probability distribution. Okay, so you can see here, the statements are written using joint probability distribution. Okay, so at the next step, okay, again your P of S comma A comma B comma E. So that will be put as P of S given A comma B comma E into P of A comma B comma E, this part. Okay. Similarly, you split and write. You represent it by making use of your joint probability distribution. This is what is called your joint probability distribution. Okay. Okay, so you can see here the truth table, whatever is being given here, it's put in the form of the sentences, whatever is given here. See, probability of B equal to true. Probability of B equal to true is equal to 0.0002, which is the probability of burglary, or P of B equal to false, that is this. Okay, the probability of no burglary. Okay, or probability of earthquake is equal to true, is 0.001. Probability of minor earthquake or false, no earthquake has occurred. Okay, so whatever truth table is being given here in the right hand side, it's put in the form of sentences out here in this table. Okay, so now the conditional probability table for alarm A. Okay, so actually there are three conditional probability table. It is this table what is being put here. There are three conditional probability table. One is this, then second one is this, the third one is this. Okay, so this is the conditional probability for alarm A. Okay, so this is going to happen. That is alarm ringing if burglary or earthquake happens. Okay, so this table, this is actually the one. The same table put here. Then this is the second one, David calls. David calls, that is this one. This one, this table, conditional probability table for David calls, and this is for Sophia calls. So these are the three conditional probability tables which form a part of this. Okay. Then from the formula of joint distribution, okay, so you have to find, so it was given here. Okay, see, the problem is given here. Okay, this I'm going to represent. Calculate the probability that alarm has sounded, but there is neither a burglary nor an earthquake has occurred, and Sophia and David has both called Harry. Okay, so that's what I'm going to represent. Okay, so find the probability value that both S, D, and A are true. That means alarm goes on and these two people are going to respond and no burglary or no earthquake and no earthquake happens. That is not of B and not of E. Okay, so that's what is being represented in the right hand side. Okay, so you can see P of S. Okay, P of S, that is true. Okay, so P of S, S is true. So what do we do? Okay, S by A, S by A. So S by A, how do we look into that? What is the parent of S? Parent of S is A, alarm. Okay, so S will be true given A. That's what is written as SA. P of S given A, this part. Okay, so the next one, the next one is D. Okay, P of D given A. That is D will happen if A happens. Okay, so what is D? D is David calls. Okay, D will happen if A happens. That's what is represented as D given A. Okay, then P of A is true. Okay, P of A is true. That is, these are the three things which was true. But then burglary has not happened. So that is why not of B, or E has also not happened. Okay, that's how you get this right hand side. Then this B and E multiplied by P. This is P multiplied by P into not of B into not of E. Okay, so this is how it is being represented. Okay, so first represent using your conditional probabilities. S comma D comma A are true, B and E are false. Then you write their appropriate values from the table, from the conditional probability table, which will be given to you. Okay, so from that, when you write the final value, what you get would be this 0.000068045. Okay, so this is actually the answer to that particular question. Okay, so now how Bayes theorem is being used in artificial intelligence. Okay, it's basically a way to calculate the value of P of B given A with the knowledge of the parent, that is P of A given B is true. Okay, so the same thing expressed as a formula. The same thing, whatever I've been telling you, expressed as a formula. So, okay. So now coming to an example. Example. Okay. So, okay. So what is the probability that a patient has disease meningitis with a stiff neck? Okay. So a doctor is aware that the disease meningitis causes a patient to have stiff neck, and it occurs 80% of the time. Okay, so P of A given B equal to 0.8. It's written here, this one. Okay, so A given B is 0.8. Okay, so the known probability that a patient has meningitis disease is 1 divided by 30,000. Okay, that's P of B. Okay, P of B. Okay, so the known probability that the patient has got a stiff neck is 2%. Okay, so we are supposed to be computing probability of B given A. Okay, B given A. Okay, so when you substitute the appropriate values, you get the answer as, I think, 1 point something 333, which you round it off as 1. Okay, so one patient out of 750 patients has got meningitis disease with a stiff neck. Okay, so one more problem is given here. You can work it out, try out this example. Then applications of your Bayes theorem. Okay, so next moving on to what is called a probabilistic reasoning. So up to here, including this will be the portion for your CT. CT2. The last topic will not be included. This is not there for your CT2. This will be the last topic, probabilistic reasoning. Okay, so when you have uncertainties in representations, okay, or when you have to represent uncertain knowledge, okay, where we are not sure about the predicates, we need certain reasoning, we need uncertain reasoning, or what is called your probabilistic reasoning. Okay, so what are the causes of it? Okay, so it could be unreliable information, or information from unreliable sources, or some experimental errors, or it could be the faulty equipment, okay, temperature variation or climatic changes. So these could all be the causes of uncertainty. Okay, then why do we need this probabilistic reasoning in AI? Okay, so when there are unpredictable outcomes, gave you an example just now, or when specifications or probabilities of predicates become too large to handle, okay, or when an unknown error occurs during a experiment. Okay, so there are two ways to solve it. One is by using your Bayes rule, and Bayesian statistics by using your DAG, directed acyclic graph. Okay, lots of scenarios are there in the real world where uncertainty of something is not confirmed, such as it will rain today, behavior of someone for some situation. Example, a match between two teams or two players. So these are all probable sentences for which we can assume that it will happen, but not for sure. And so we call it as probabilistic reasoning. Okay, then when you say probability, this is again a repetition itself. It will always have a value between 0 and 1. Okay, 0 means indicates total uncertainty. 1 means total certainty. Okay, that's the point to be noted. Then P of not A, the probability of an event not happening. Not happening event. Okay, P of not A plus P of A is what is called equal to 1. Then certain basic terminologies like what is an event, what is a sample space, what is a random variable, what is a prior probability, and what is a posterior probability. Okay, so you can look into all these things. Then what basically is a conditional probability? Another way of representing it is probability of A given B equal to probability of A and B divided by P of B. Okay, A and B is what is called a joint probability of A and B. B is probability of B is what is called a marginal probability of B. Okay, so look into an example of probabilistic reasoning. So you can see here in a class there are 70% of students who likes English. And 40% of the students who likes uh, maths. Okay, this could be math. Okay, who likes English and maths. And then what is the percentage of students who likes English and will also like maths? Okay, so A is actually 70%. A and B is actually 40%. Okay, A is 70%, A and B is 40%. Okay, so A given B needs to be found out. Okay, so when this symbol comes into picture, so we can make use of what is called your joint probability. Okay, conditional probability with joint probability. Okay, so in this case you have to use this. Okay, then we have a property being mentioned here. Many of these things are repetitions. A property is being mentioned here. P of S plus P of naught of S is equal to 1. Okay, so consider the statement. S March will be cold. It's denoted as P of S. Okay, considering the chances of March being cold is 30%. That is P of S is equal to 0.3. It will always be a value between 0 and 1. Okay, probability will always take a value between 0 and 1. If the probability is 0 means then the event will never occur. If it's 1 means it will occur for sure. Then P of naught S will definitely be 0.7. Both adding up to 1. Okay, that's what this means. 0.3 plus 0.7, 0.1. I mean 1.0. That's the first property. Second property, what it says is, okay, P of S and T means probability of S and T. Probability of March and April being cold. Okay, or probability of S or T means probability of S or T. Probability of March or April being cold. Okay, so that is S or T. P of S plus P of T minus P of S and T. Okay, so conditional probability and other things, again a repetition. Okay, so this is your an example. Okay, that's it. So up to here is the portion for your CT. Okay, so those who have doubts, you can text me if you want any particular topic to be taken separately. You can text me tomorrow. We can have special classes. Whoever is interested, and only if you're interested, have doubts. I know it had been a roller coaster ride, your syllabus. So we had to go at neck breaking speed to complete the portions. So just go through it. Go through it. The PPTs are quite easy and illustrative, easy to understand too. Go through it and let me know if you have any doubts.